Now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, and welcome to our SYNCHRO webinar. Today's webinar is in relation to what P6 users should know about SYNCHRO. My name is Tom Dempsey, Director of Customer Engagement based in London in the UK, and my colleague Pawel Krecz is part of our SYNCHRO Project Delivery Team based in Leeds in the United Kingdom as well. Pawel will take you through a short webinar which will explain some information about what SYNCHRO can bring to P6 users, some things you may know, some things you may not know. So if you do have any questions, please do submit them to us via the questions tab in your GoToWebinar menu, and we can answer them at the end. So for now, I'll just hand over to Pawel, and please fill those questions out, and we'll get to answering them at the end. Pawel, over to you.
Thank you, Tom. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. As Tom mentioned, my name is Pawel Krecz. I work for SYNCHRO Project Delivery Team, and today I'm broadcasting from Leeds in the United Kingdom. It's really my pleasure to present today because the topic seems important to all our industry, and for me as a planner as well. So we are receiving a lot of questions regarding SYNCHRO. SYNCHRO interoperability, and what's more interesting, main question, whether can SYNCHRO be used as an independent planning software if organization is willing to do so. So, well, it's not my intention to discourage anyone from using any other planning software at this stage, and this webinar is not another SYNCHRO versus something else type discussion, but my main goal today is to highlight some of the SYNCHRO capabilities and users are not widely known, and maybe something that will give you some ideas for the future. I will try to concentrate on some capabilities from the planner's perspective. I have a strong planning background. I was recently doing more 4D planning and modeling as well, but entire life, my entire career is a planning, so I really know all the other software, other platforms, P6 in this case, but you know, similar differences exist between SYNCHRO and other planning platforms. But again, I don't want to discourage you from using other planning software, just want to highlight some SYNCHRO capabilities that not widely known to the planners community. Those capabilities might or might not improve your planning efforts, but at some time, but I think it's a good idea to talk about them so you can make your own judgment and really decide what's the best for your organization. So, so I talk first, then please share your thoughts, questions, or any ideas you might have. As Tom mentioned, we'd love to hear all of them, so questions or emails after this webinar are really welcome. Before I start, I forgot if I introduced myself, so this is what we are now. My name is Pawel, and I'm against all this audience, which I believe is quite you know, wide world. I'm a bit stressed today, but I'm trying to concentrate on today's topics. So before we start, before I continue the presentation slides, I really want to mention one thing. SYNCHRO as a planning software. SYNCHRO is an ultimate and completely independent planning solution because we offer quite robust import and export operability, namely with P6, Astapart project, and Microsoft project. People are simply thinking that SYNCHRO cannot produce and manage project schedules. Well, this is the first major misconception about SYNCHRO, and I really want to clarify it before I continue. So SYNCHRO is working as a completely independent planning software, and with SYNCHRO we can create and link tasks, we can build and assign resources, schedule and calculate the cost, save baselines or different scenarios of our schedules, and finally monitor and control our program, report any variances, report progress, and so on. So everything that planners are usually do, SYNCHRO can cover that, can be independent planning platform. Our interoperability with P6, Astapy project and Microsoft project is simply making that that process simpler for organization, because we understand there's a different software. So on its own, SYNCHRO contains all the traditional mechanisms and functions, and they exist, for example, in P6, but there is no real difference in functionality. It might be different button or different user interface, but underneath, SYNCHRO contains complete and fully functional planning engine. What is making SYNCHRO different is its 4D capability, and that's the first slide of today from this presentation. So we're trying to concentrate on 4D world recently. It's a new technology. We're talking about BIM, we're talking about modeling, and this is what SYNCHRO is trying to do. SYNCHRO is trying to link our program or schedule information with the model available, and that will create this 4D, what we call a 4D link or 4D model or 4D plan. Regardless how you name it, it's a technology with a VDC process, virtual design and construction, and it's part of building information modeling. It's just the fourth dimension of information modeling. So this is what SYNCHRO is exactly. It's a planning software, but with 4D capability. So having program, having schedule and model, we can produce more dynamic 4D models and do certain things in SYNCHRO. Things that you won't be able to do in other planning software. So before I present other functions and tools in SYNCHRO, I'll briefly talk about SYNCHRO datasets. Every SYNCHRO program, every SYNCHRO project is certain datasets, and except 3D models. If you look at this chart, schedule and resources, it's usually part of the planning process, something that you know from other planning platforms. What we are adding to this equation is the 3D model information, so 3D geometry plus attributes available associated with those objects, so we can do our planning more parametric, more model-based, and that's the real benefit of using this kind of tools. Another set is the documents. I'm only mentioning this now, and I'll just show you some slide later on. Documents is the fourth data set we include in SYNCHRO model, and a little bit of explanation I'll provide you later on. So I'm starting with this slide because I believe risk is the most important information that we can provide, we can associate with the program. SYNCHRO has two different ways of managing the risk. SYNCHRO can plan the risk and opportunities. This is the real-time mechanism that will allow users to include risk in the relationship network. So you can see that that portion of work which we call risk can be planned, can be really planned in the relationship network. And it is essential for the project to identify risks and manage them, or to mitigate them later on. It's very often a contractual requirement to present risk to the client as well. So this form, or the second idea, SYNCHRO can present risks to the client in a clean form, whether it's included in a network or excluded from the network, logical relationships in a schedule. We can show those risks or opportunities. If the risk is included in the spreadsheet table or kind of text register, we cannot really simulate or include those calculations in the critical path. But in Synchro, risk is calculated and then can affect the project duration, as it should, I guess, for your project's good. And in Synchro, we have two different options available to manage the risk. One, we can create individual risk and added them to tasks, changing project duration and affecting critical path. The other one is individual risk can be added to task, but then buffered at the end of the logic chain in the form of a buffer. And then this way we won't affect the project duration, but we still can monitor and simulate risks. So that's a capability of Synchro I really like as a planner, because I can plan my risks in the project. The other thing I mentioned, the Synchro is model-based planning, so we can create resources. We can create resources from 3D objects, and creation of those, it's very simple. If we have a model, we have a structured data, we have 3D components or objects or systems. We can easily create resources in Synchro from those objects, and we can also adjust the level of details that we want to achieve. Further tools like subdivision tool will only help us to make our program more detailed. So the example in the top corner just show you simply how the resources are created and how later on the resources are creating the task in the schedule. So if you're creating tasks if you're creating a schedule from scratch in Synchro, you can start with the model information. Later on, when you have the 3D objects in Synchro, and for example decided to subdivide them, that's the lower corner, that's the lower part of this slide. You can split single element into kind of parts, subdivision parts, and then Synchro will automatically create detailed tasks for those subdivisions. So this way you can manage your program, you can make your schedule more detailed, and this is by using of 3D geometry and 3D subdivision tool. Then as you can imagine, in Synchro we can simulate the work, different type of work. Example here just showing, listing you several different type of work. So we can create those kind of profiles of work type, and every work can be simulated in a different profile using different colors, different patterns, and having that kind of profile library in Synchro, you can copy that to different projects. So you can almost create that library just once and copy that across different projects. And Legend in the 3D view will simplify the view, and users will know exactly what they're looking at. So different type of work will be simulated differently. That kind of simulation doesn't exist in any other planning software because of lack of this 3D, 4D capability, 4D simulation capability. In Synchro we can do that easily from the resource and the resource appearance profiles. So that's a tool that we really like, and it's completely user-driven, user-defined, and you can adopt it to your needs or your requirements. Following that, if we are thinking about resources, what's the most important thing for us as planners is what is associated with the task, because the task is not end of the story. We usually have resource assignments. So for one task, individual tasks, we can have several resources assigned to it. And the slide here is showing different approach to our schedule, something that you cannot achieve in other planning software. So really, resource status monitoring that is completely independent from task status. In other words, if you're thinking about single task, single activity that is in progress and has several resource associated with it, we can report statuses of those resources independently. For example, if the activity is 50% done, you can then pick up individual resources and report the status on those separately. And that kind of layout you can produce from SYNCHRO. So in the slide here we can see in the middle of the screen, that's a SYNCHRO snapshot with the profiles from resource statuses profiles. Different colors will mean different things. You can define those statuses. Again, it's a user-driven, user-defined. The snapshots on the left-hand side is show you the site app that you can use for progress monitoring and resource statuses monitoring. That works in combination with the model. That application runs on the iPad. On the right-hand side, we have a real photo from the site, so you can actually see this kind of process going on here, which I would call resource monitoring, resource statuses. Where are our resources? What they do? What is the quality check on those, and other things like that. So whatever you can imagine in terms of status reporting statuses, you can add to SYNCHRO model, and then report it against the task, against the resource. Resource quantities, that's another important thing for us, because every resource that you assign to task, we can quantify it, we can calculate it, we can summarize the tonnage, we can summarize the cubic meters and every measurement unit. Once we assign the resource to SYNCHRO, we can quantify it, we can assign the cost, and using production rates, for example, we can almost calculate the duration of the task. So if we have assigned several resources to task, we can summarize the quantity of that resource or different resources, and using production rate, output rates, calculate the duration automatically in SYNCHRO. And later on, we can also simulate the use of resources in combination with simulation. So just a snapshot video here in a simplistic graph and 4D simulation. We can kind of report the quantities and simulate the quantities as well, and track those quantities in the form of KPIs or something that we are achieving actual versus the baseline or versus the plan. So quantities also very important part of monitoring process, integral part of the schedule. SYNCHRO introduces 4 types of resource. We call it location resource. So on top of the material, labor, plant, and equipment, we also have the location resource. This is very important from the workspace management point of view. Location is a limited resource that very often costs us money and should never be ignored in our project. So location resource can be managed the same way as other type of resource, and can be measured, quantified, cost loaded, and obviously monitored over time, simulated as well. With location resources, we can visualize construction activities and identify time-space constraints. So if we take 3D coordination into account, we'll be able to highlight important project or logistic situations. We call it a spatial coordination in SYNCHRO, and it's just another name for clash detection. In SYNCHRO, clash detection is also dynamic. It includes the 4th dimension, which is the time. So we can actually tell that clash will incur at the specific point in time, and it will affect specific tasks, specific activities. Other example uses of location resource is, we can highlight protection, exclusion zones, safety or dangerous areas. We can also highlight equipment operations or crane working ranges. We can also clash detect working range from the crane with some other workspaces. We can highlight pedestrian and vehicle routes, project phasing, that's another example. Also simulate different type of work or disciplines, different trades within specific defined space rather than simulating the objects from the model. That's also possible, and that's very useful for crew coordination, if you like. Summary tasks, I only mention those summary tasks because as planners you're probably aware of those summary tasks that are handled different ways in many different planning platforms. What I like about the summary task in Synchro, you can absolutely do whatever you want with them. So in other words, you can produce links from summary tasks to another summary task if you wanna create groups of tasks. It's you can disallow that functionality, but I like the flexibility. You're able to turn it on or turn it off, and also we can assign resources to summary task, which is also a good idea. And again, it's very flexible to have summary task in Synchro, but you can also, treat them as just a summary task and don't do anything with them. But I like the flexibility we have in Synchro on summary tasks. Baseline, saving different scenarios and what-if tests, what-if schedules within Synchro. It's very easy. Unlimited number of baseline or scenarios can be created and selectively displayed in 3D views. Saved baselines can be cleared or reset at any time, or restored completely or partly if you want to restore a baseline that was saved, or just a scenario. The biggest advantage from using baseline functionality in Synchro is the integration with 4D data, 3D data. So having schedule linked with the model, users can compare baselines and various schedule scenarios, not only in a Gantt chart, but also by simulating and visualizing the results in the 3D views, like the slide here, where we compare the baseline and actual progress. So visual 4D reports can offer, they often better means for communication between team members. And if I visualize baseline actual program versus baseline in this form, it's a good visual tool for discussions, and you much clearly see the acceleration or the delay in the project. Excuse me. Progress reporting, in progress monitoring in Synchro. What I like about it, you can add progress reports, and during progress monitoring, users can add those reports using the context menu in the task properties, and they can report, or they can leave the generation of those reports automatically. So if the report is automatically generated, it will tell us, what happened to the task. We'll report whether that task is delayed or accelerated. Will give us some basic information about, advanced percentage completion, and will project the remaining duration. We can monitor different things like reason. So the reason will indicate whether the report is a progress or expense report. We can put a date of report. That's also very good to track the changes to the program, to the schedule. We can change the type of the report, so we can indicate whether it's a delay or advance. I mentioned the percentage completion. We can define it very quickly, and again duration, and we can add some comments to the report, and that's happening either manually or automatically during the monitoring in Synchro. So for every task, for every change of the status, that kind of report we can add to the list later on. We can find that information quickly and track all our changes in the schedule over time. Physical quantity. percentage completion types. We have more percentage completion types in SYNCHRO. One I particularly like, it's a physical quantity. So we have the capability to calculate duration of task based on this physical quantity, and that is completely independent from the assigned resources. So if we don't have any resources, we can actually use this physical quantity, and that is on the task level. It's not on the resource level, and we can fix the duration. Then SYNCHRO will calculate the required production rate to achieve the task, to complete the task on time. If we choose to duration to be calculated, then we can use the production rate to calculate the duration from the physical quantity, and production rate that will be calculated automatically. Physical quantity is an alternative way of planning when duration of task is completely dependent on some kind of physical work, for example 200 cubic meters of concrete, but without having that resource assigned as yet. So it's a quick tool to start our planning efforts without the resources as yet. But we can still later on switch that different type of calculations in the schedule later on. Once we have the resources assigned, then we can calculate duration from the resource quantity rather than this physical quantity. But again, what I like about it is that we have this flexibility. So at different stages of our schedule, our project, we can use different tools that will do the same thing. But the idea is to help the planner to start some calculations and optimization of the program. We can also monitor progress based on that physical quantity, so that quantity ultimately can become a factor for our calculations and KPIs. Just one thing to remember: it's not the same as the physical quantity in P6, which is kind of different idea. It's a different construct. So please do remember this. It's nothing to do with the physical quantity, the one you know from P6. Another feature that I like the most is the filtering and dynamic filtering. This is very important for large data sets, for large schedules. Some filtering capabilities you probably know from different planning software. In SYNCHRO, we have many additional ones, like presenting critical path in 3D view or 4D simulation. You can simulate the critical path. We can select resources assigned to specific tasks and create filters that are actually based on 3D objects or resources, but they at the same time they filter specific tasks for us. So that association with 3D objects now makes more sense and more use. We can use a lot of parameters that are coming from 3D and resources, and we can kind of combine those with task filters. We can also change the colors and the color coding and coding itself. The content and the codes and colors will change dynamically depending on what kind of filters are applied. We can also filter based on any data field available in SYNCHRO, which is quite powerful, and we can create kind of fluid, dynamic look-aheads, like the screenshots here is showing the filter that is based on focus time. When you move the focus time in SYNCHRO, the content of your Gantt chart will change dynamically when you change the focus time. Something you might remember from a planning software called DataDate is a static one, is a static date. You change it every week or every month. With the focus time, you can change the content of the Gantt chart quite quickly, just moving that focus time back and forth. Another tool which I would like to mention is not commonly known for planners. It's a very powerful tool. It's forgotten or not used very often, but SYNCHRO offers is a mechanism of optimizing your schedule by using free float. So if there's enough float in a logic chain, user can decide to use PullPush technique that will remove that flow, that will move the task either upstream or downstream, allowing further optimization in the resource flow. So this can be done by moving single task or the whole chain of tasks. And this technique is one of the lean planning practices that considers time, float, and resource flow. Please remember that this is not the same as lean manufacturing PullPush technique, which is kind of different. But what it's done here, what is happening in SYNCHRO, the pull or push technique will simply remove the float, so we can optimize the flow of resources and see the changes in the 3D view as well quite quickly. When the tasks are linked with the 3D model, you can easily simulate it straight away in 3D view. Calculated user fields, quite powerful. Recent version of SYNCHRO contains even more calculated user fields. So user field, as you remember from the planning software or activity code, similar to that, but we can now calculate different things, and the list of calculation components and formulas is what you can see on screen. It's several hundred different parameters you can calculate from. So that user field, user defined field, it's no more static information. That could be very dynamic. That you can calculate, quantities or any other thing that exists as a data in SYNCHRO from resource, from 3D objects to the task, all the way around. By using those formulas, you can edit those formulas, and you can use all the data fields available in SYNCHRO to do so. So that becomes more dynamic, engine for our calculations. Not only duration and cost or resource quantities we can calculate anything else, and this functionality, it will improve your experience, your quantitative approach to planning, parametric planning as well. So it's quite powerful functionality. Just few mentions here, because the tools is one thing. There's another thing is the visualization. We like visualizations, so I'm just giving you a few more ideas now that SYNCHRO can be used, and what is making this different from other planning software. That visualization is quite powerful, and you can use it not only for the construction or pre-construction planning or site logistics, but also for things like digital commissioning, digital asset management, or project handover. The slide here shows you the commissioning process. So again, a few more ideas on how you can use SYNCHRO as a planning software, more visual tool. The one I mentioned initially, that was the data set. In SYNCHRO we can associate documents with any objects. With any 3D objects or the task, we can assign documents. In this case, the slide shows here there is a specification of the pump associated with specific object in this model. So you can actually go to that object, and you can bring that specification from the screen. That document is then either included in SYNCHRO model, or could be also referenced as an external document. And that's why we wanna mention this now. We can expand our planning capabilities by adding documents, spreadsheets, reports, quality checks reports, specifications, and any kind of digital document we can assign to task or the 3D object. SYNCHRO is also a bigger platform. The product I'm talking about today is a SYNCHRO Pro application, but we also have a wider range of our products. So if you think about SYNCHRO as a platform, we have SYNCHRO capability as well. So SYNCHRO can work as a server. Once you place your master file on server, SYNCHRO Pro is then used as a client, so it's not standalone anymore. We use our API interface to use a site app. That's the iPad application that is used for status, task status and resource monitoring. So just mention that SYNCHRO is not only a single standalone version application on a single computer, but can also work as a platform. We also have a SYNCHRO scheduler, which is our planning software without 4D capability, but you can also use it as a free application in your organization. For the clients or the owners, we also offer SYNCHRO Open Viewer, which will open SYNCHRO Project read-only mode, so you can share it with others. Just one thing to remember, that we operate as a bigger platform. Very often used SYNCHRO during the link planning or clip session, we call them. Within VDC process, there'll be ICE session. Example here is showing the kind of discussion with use of SYNCHRO model, and I think it's a touch plan. So we can combine those two different, two different software and include SYNCHRO in the discussion, whether it's a lean planning discussion or any other discussion that SYNCHRO is more often used these days, mainly due to those 4D simulation capabilities. And I think that's all from me today. I was really pressured to talk about those functionalities. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them now or later on after this session. If you have any ideas, we also would like to hear them. We like ideas, and if you think about some changes to SYNCHRO, if you're already using SYNCHRO, we really love to hear those, so we can improve or make our product better. So thank you very much for today.
Okay, Pawel. I've got a couple of questions that come in, so I know we've gone over time, but thanks everyone for hanging on. Just quickly, Pawel, if you can answer these questions, and we can also follow up afterwards as well. So the first question we've had is tracking earned value in SYNCHRO. Can you do that? Is it the same as P6? And do you track it at resource level or activity level?
Okay, it's the straight answer and quick answer to this is yes. We have a full capability of reporting earned value and managing value, and if you decide to put a direct cost to task, that will be on the task level. But if you assign resources and quantify the resources and using unit rates, unit price on the resources level, you can also monitor it on the resource level. So it's full capability. There's no difference between SYNCHRO and P6. You can also visualize it, so together with your 4D simulation animation, you can also attach the earned value graph that is actually simulated at the same time. So that's the main difference, but the main capability is there. No difference here.
Okay, great. The second question is in regards to temporary works. Can you import equipment from other platforms, and can you also use any default equipment libraries within SYNCHRO?
Okay, if you think about equipment represented as 3D objects, that's yes. That's another answer. It's no difference when you import existing conditions or temporary works models to SYNCHRO. Initially, you will see those models clashing because they'll be occupying the same space. But once you link 3D objects with the schedule data, obviously those objects won't clash anymore because they will be separated in time. So absolutely yes, we can import existing conditions, models to SYNCHRO, we can show the transition between existing conditions and permanent work, temporary works as well. Things like cranes and scaffolding is a good example. Obviously, if there are modeled, we can also bring them to SYNCHRO, and it's actually a good idea to have them. So today, I think the best practice is to have them anyway. It's kind of obvious question and obvious answer to it.
Okay, great. Third question is, one of the main drawbacks users found with P6 is other people being able to make changes to a schedule that then gets pushed into a main project schedule. So in SYNCHRO, is there a way of controlling that access and admin rights to maybe tag certain tasks as not for exports or something similar?
Okay, I think that question is really about the synchronization, updating the program, updating the schedule from different sources. If we are thinking about external source like P6 as a main source of information in SYNCHRO, we have to update that program, that schedule, maybe weekly, maybe monthly. There is synchronization too as well, so SYNCHRO can act both ways. We can synchronize to SYNCHRO. We can also, if we're doing changes in SYNCHRO, we can synchronize that back to P6. And this question is really valid because I think it's very important that in this kind of situation, the protocol must be established and must be written down, must be tested, and users or planners are fully aware of what's going on, because as you mentioned, Tom, you can synchronize to Primavera and that will change the plan in Primavera. I can see that some people will try to block this kind of capability. We have a user interface in SYNCHRO, so we can limit certain things, or limit we can add users to the list, and we can assign them to the specific portion of the program. We can also block the synchronization to P6 if we want to block certain users, so we can control this process. But again, my main message here is that we should actually test it. We should set it up, test it, and then write down that protocol so everyone is aware of what's going on. And to avoid those mistakes, we can either control the process by applying different user levels, different user privileges, and then one person obviously should monitor as administrator of the system what takes priority and who will be able to do what. And that kind of control process we can apply on many different levels in SYNCHRO. First of all, by establishing this protocol, writing it down and explaining it to the team. It must be tested, and then we can apply the privilege and user control. So we can add users and we can block certain functionality. That prevention tools, prevention mechanism exists in SYNCHRO, of course, and this way we can control the flow of information.
Excellent. And finally, just quickly, a user's asked about training options that are available for SYNCHRO. Can you fill us in on that?
Can you, Tom, answer this question?
Yeah, maybe it's better actually. So yeah, we do have training options. So the first port of call for most things is our SYNCHRO Academy, which is free to register to, and that involves that within the academy itself you can take some training, you can see best practice examples, you can see other people's use as well. So the best thing to do to register for SYNCHRO Academy is to access via our website, and you can fill in a form and you can get free access to that. So that's a great port of call for training. We do also hold regular trainings mainly in the US and the UK, but we're starting to look at some ports in Europe as well. And we can also come to your project or office to actually conduct a SYNCHRO training to staff as well. So there are different options there, which in terms of training, there's various forms of e-learning as well as other means. So yeah, excellent training options hopefully. And really that's where we come to the end. So we've run over time a little bit, so apologies and thanks for hanging on. We are going to publish this webinar via social media and via website as well, so keep a lookout for that, share it with people, and if there's any other questions that come up, please do get in touch. So just to say thanks for me and Pawel, thanks for your time, and
thank you very much.
Yeah, we hope you enjoy it, and hopefully speak to you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.